You want to prevent school shootings? How about there's one entrance to the building with a metal detector at that entrance and officers posted, trained and experienced officers. There's millions of jobless.
All right, that's enough of that. Let's talk about why that's not going to work to prevent mass shootings. I mean, the most obvious reason is it doesn't stop mass shootings, just mass shootings in schools. And stopping just school shootings isn't the goal. The goal is stopping mass shootings in general. Now, from a tactical standpoint, putting all of that into schools could prevent mass shootings in schools. But when we're talking about preventing loss of life and threat assessments, whether it be in a civilian population or even in war, you can't just think tactically, you have to think strategically. So let's say we go this method of hardening the defenses of our schools. And we'll go ahead and ignore some of the obvious problems with this to give it the ideal scenario that we implement this perfectly. We'll ignore the fact that since Columbine, we've steadily been increasing the amount of armed police officers that are in schools, to the point that in 2018 we were just shy of 50% of public schools having an armed police officer assigned to them. We'll ignore the fact that police officers have not stopped mass shootings in schools that they were at, including some police officers abandoning the school in the middle of the shooting, and more recently in Uvalde, police officers taking no action to stop the mass shooting. Trained and experienced officers. We can ignore the fact that the good guy with the gun scenario doesn't stop mass shootings, as evidence of an armed security guard who was experienced and trained losing his life in Buffalo attempting to stop a mass shooting. And we can also ignore the fact that you can't get the government to pay for textbooks, let alone all the upgrades to schools it will need. But say we could pull that off. We get the upgraded building. We get the armed patrols in schools. Those armed patrols have no issues causing extra brutality on the students that we see with armed police officers within the schools currently. We're still going to have mass shootings. Children are still going to die. It's just not going to happen in the schools anymore. We have turned that school into a hardened target, but we haven't eliminated the issue of gun violence in our country. And that gun violence is just going to shift to soft targets. Mass shooters already conduct attacks at graduations, funerals, supermarkets, doctors' offices, hospitals. Hardening the school as a target without eliminating the root cause means little Johnny may be safe in school, but he's not going to be safe on his field trip or at his soccer match. This supposed solution to mass shootings didn't work when Ted Cruz said it. It's not going to change the fact that it doesn't work when TikTokers are now repeating him. Unless you're willing to live your life in an ultra-militarized armed police state, hardening targets is not going to stop gun violence. Because once we harden the school, we would have to start hardening everything. Grocery stores, hospitals, the playgrounds. In turn, giving up more of our rights and freedoms than if we just passed basic gun control measures. I'd personally rather wait a few days to be able to buy a new gun than have to go through a TSA-style body scanner to go to Walmart. So maybe let's do something that works instead of creating this fantasy scenario that's destined to fail.